Good evening, good folks, and welcome to the City of Muskegon City Commission General Session meeting for this Tuesday, March 14th, 2023. Before we get into our business for this meeting, and which will be preceded by prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance, I want to let everyone know that we do have two public comment periods. One's at the beginning of the meeting on agenda items, and then another public comment period at the end of the meeting on any topic you wish to discuss, whether it was addressed during this meeting or otherwise. Public comment forms are at the back of the room. We ask that you complete that form and submit it to our clerk. Please provide your name and address. Note, I will not share your address, nor will I ask you to provide your address at the podium to respect your privacy in that regard. While you're in the audience, we do ask that you maintain decorum and please be respectful of the proceedings and keep any remarks to yourselves. You are, of course, welcomed and encouraged to provide comment during our public comment periods. Also, during our public comment period, it is not necessarily a time for back and forth between myself and anyone speaking and addressing the commission, nor any of the other commissioners. It is time to hear from you, not necessarily Q&A. If there are questions outstanding, we can direct you to the appropriate staff personnel to follow up with you to get those answers that you need. So if you are so able to do so and wish to join us, please stand as we are led in prayer by Pastor Bennett of Mount Zion Church of God in Christ, and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Welcome, Pastor.
Thank you. God our Father, we thank you because you've allowed us to gather to take care of the business of this community, this city. I ask that you lead us and guide us, give us direction. I ask that you give us clarity of thought and understanding. Give us peace and understanding of diverse ideas and thoughts. And because you are doing all of these things and because you are taking control, we say thank you. We give you all the honor and we give you all the praise. It is in your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. Appreciate you joining us tonight and leading us in prayer. Madam Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Gorman?
Here.
Commissioner Emery?
Here.
Commissioner St. Clair?
Here.
Mayor Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Hood?
Here.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Here.
Vice Mayor German?
Here.
Thank you. All right, so first up, we do have a presentation from Muskegon Community College, Bring It to the Table, and that's going to be led by Mr. George Maniatis, Director of Center for Experimental Learning and a history instructor.
Experiential learning.
Experiential. Oh, it says experimental here.
Oh, it does?
On your business card, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe there was an error there. Okay. Good evening, folks. It's my pleasure to be with you tonight. Thank you for inviting me. My name is George Maniatis. I am a history instructor, plus the director of the Center for Experiential Learning at Muskegon Community College. Perhaps you may know a little bit about us, but maybe you don't. We've been in an entity at the college for over 12 years. We believe that our courses are best served by having a real-life component to them. It's not just the theory that you learn in the classroom, but it's also what you take away from our community in terms of experiences, etc. Over the years, we have been very proud to partner and collaborate with a number of institutions within our community, including all the major museums, the Muskegon Museum of Art, the USS Silversides, the Lakeshore Museum, plus a number of Western Michigan museums, including the Tri-Cities over in Grand Haven as well. And we've taken students to a number of different places. Some people can attest. I see Commissioner Gorman, who was one of our adherents at one point. We've gone to major battlefields. We've gone to Detroit, Chicago, Cleveland, Vicksburg, Mississippi, to see battlefields, to encounter museums, to do a lot of different things. I'm here this evening, though, to spotlight an opportunity. One of the things that we are concerned about in education is political divisiveness. You experience this every day. You know, obviously, as city officials, you hear the rancor and divisiveness of political opinion all the time. And it's becoming very, very contentious. This rancor, it's my way or no way. You hear that all the time. And how difficult it is to get people to listen. So we're bringing to the college a woman who is a documentarian. She's done a number of documentary films. She's traveled across the country and she's gone around the world essentially. Her name is Julie Winokur. Julie Winokur has been trying to understand what it takes to get people to listen. Because we do have 2 ears. Let's start using them, as opposed to, only the mouth. So what we're going to be doing is seeing a documentary tomorrow evening at 6:30 p.m. at the Overbrook Theater. There's no admission charge for this. And we're going to be going through some training on how to listen and how to facilitate. Now, we've been very happy to have, as part of our committee, Vice Mayor German, who's been serving with us. And we're trying to make this a collaborative effort. And as you can see from the material that I provided you with tonight, the Muskegon Area District Library, the Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies for Muskegon County, and the Foundation for Muskegon Community College have joined together to facilitate this event. And we would like to extend an invitation to you as commissioners and you to the general public, and I will leave some materials here for you all to participate. Come to this event. Learn to facilitate, because we know how contentious it is. I often quip with my students, if you think that it was awkward at Thanksgiving dinner with Uncle Joe or Uncle John or Aunt Sally, what's it going to be like with the rest of the world? So we've got to start listening. It's not just a cancel culture. It's not a woke society. It is a ability for us, for our democracy, to be able to persist in a fashion that facilitates us being able to talk, listen, and compromise. So we invite you to come to the program tomorrow evening. I appreciate you spending time or letting me spend time with you tonight. And let's get things changed. Our democracy lies in the fact that we can talk, discuss, and facilitate. So I thank you this evening for letting me be here.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Maniatis. Before you go, though, in case any of our commissioners have any questions.
Yes, go ahead.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Maniatis about this event? No? All right, excellent. I do have one question. How
Yes.
long do you anticipate it going tomorrow evening, and can you drop in at any time?
Well, it starts, the film starts at 6:30. There'll be training probably by 7:30. We should be done by 8:15 at night. So about an hour and 45 minutes, we figure.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I particularly wonder because we have the launch of our master land use plan goal review sessions series starting tomorrow night, and that's going 5:30 to 7:30.
Well,
so some
we
of us
would
might be there,
appreciate
and they
you
might try to
coming
run
in,
there.
dropping in. Your presence is always welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you for your work on this and promoting discourse over division.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, so now we have public comment on any agenda items. I don't have any forms submitted on agenda items. Have you received any more, Madam Clerk? Is there anyone in the audience who has not submitted a form that wishes to provide public comment on an agenda item? No? All right, anyone on the phone line wishing to give public comment?
No.
All right. Commissioners, you've had an opportunity to review the items on the consent agenda. Are there any items that you wish to have removed for separate consideration, deliberation, and vote? Vice Mayor German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to start out with 7B. And let's see. Just look at that. Give me a second here. Let's look at that. The agreement with the Muskegon Heights water department item was that.
It's at the end. That's 7Q.
7Q. Yeah. Oh, there it is. Okay. And then also 8B. No, 8A.
Okay, that's
No.
public hearing.
That's right. 8B. I'm sorry.
That's public hearing.
That's a
So
public-
we'll
Oh, that's a
have
public
that
hearing.
separate from
Yeah.
the
Okay,
consent
that
agenda.
would be it. Yeah. Thank you.
Commissioners, are there any other items that you wish to have removed for separate consideration and vote? Nope. Seeing no others, I would welcome a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented minus items 7B and 7Q.
Motion to adopt the agenda as presented, polling items 7B and 7Q.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner Emery. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Vice Mayor German, item 7B.
All right. To get some discussion on this, I move to approve the revised rules of the City Commission to eliminate the option for groups to speak 10 minutes.
Support.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor German, supported by Commissioner Ramsey, to approve the revised rules of the City Commission. Vice Mayor German.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Reason I brought this out because I was hearing from constituents in the community, and sitting on this commission for the last going on 12 years, we never changed the rules. We allowed each group to speak at least 10 minutes, and we have not had that many groups come up and participate in sometimes our public speaking. And given the fact that after I thought about this and slept on this, sometimes there may be a speaker that may not speak fluently or be able to, get that time where they can utilize those 10 minutes. So I thought about those conditions as well. And given the fact that we are a welcoming city and we welcome everyone, and to allow them to speak and get their point across, I think it's essential that we continue to allow them the 10 minutes to speak and state what their purpose is or their concerns are or proposal. So that's pretty much it for me.
Thank you, Vice Mayor German.
Yeah.
I think Commissioner Ramsey, you supported this?
I did, and so
All
I
right.
would like to speak as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Next.
Oh, I didn't have to raise my pen. Look at that. And thank you, Mr. Holm, for shutting those doors. I'm of two minds, and that's why I supported this, so that we could have discussion around it. I think that if it streamlines the process for our neighbors to come up and speak, that I support that. There are a lot of them that come up, and we want them. We want them. I'm not going to talk about you like you're not here. We want you guys to come up and be a part of this process. That's why we sit here for 4.5 hours last night. But I also think that if there are procedures in place that we're not utilizing, as far as like how an agency or an organization is recognized and how we determine if they're given 10 minutes or not, unless those things are fairly cemented and equitable across the board for anyone who's showing up, I would rather do away with those procedures so that we know that no matter what, I show up and get 10 minutes or three minutes, that Commissioner Gorman shows up and get 3 minutes. It makes those opportunities equitable and leaves less gray area for the what constitutes a group that is given 10, and take some of that question out. So while I I support everything that Vice Mayor has said, I think that anything we can do to streamline and make all opportunities more equitable, the access therein, I support.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey. Commissioner Hood.
Yes, I support streamlining also. I agree with what Commissioner
Ramsey. Michael.
said. I agree with Commissioner Ramsey said, because I mean, you're taking the guesswork out of what's considered who's a group and who's not. And I know we've had people come up that wasn't a group but said they were a group, and they took the 10 minutes. So I think to get everybody in, 3 minutes is good enough.
Thank you, Commissioner Hood. Commissioner St. Clair.
I also concur with Commissioner Ramsey and Commissioner Hood. And would like to add, when we discussed this in the Legislative Policy Committee meeting, we talked about the fact that we have changed to allow for phone-in comments, which potentially broadens our reach significantly to who can make comment and how much time we allot for that. And there's also other venues for groups to have comments. Mr. Maniotti is an example of that. He came representing a group, the community college, and approached the clerk, got on the agenda, and was allowed, I don't know if we gave him a time limit, but was allowed to take the time that he needed to present his case. So I think that there is still opportunity for groups who are wanting to have more than 3 minutes to present whatever it is that they would like to share, to access that. I don't think it has to be in public comment for that to happen.
Thank you, Commissioner St. Clair. Commissioner Gorman or Commissioner Emery, do you have anything to add on this item? All right. I concur on the streamlining and creating simplicity and consistency in how public comment is received. And I'll add that in my years on this commission and in recent years, we've expanded opportunities for public comment. We have added public comment at the beginning of our meetings before we vote and deliberate on anything. We have formally included public comment at our work sessions as well on the agenda. We have most recently created that opportunity for people to provide public comment over the phone. So we have created a number of different additional ways for people to provide public comment. And I think that there is value in that simplicity and consistency of everyone, regardless of who you are, having 3 minutes. So I would support this motion to revise the rules. So if there's nothing else, follow up, Vice Mayor German?
Yeah. And I hear what everyone's saying, and I think that's going to be part of the reason why this bring it to the table is going to be essential to this commission to come in and participate and hear the difference with with politics and allowing the public to speak. Again, we've never done this before. I've sat on this commission 12 years, and we don't have that many groups that come in and do groups and represent themselves to speak. And I noticed when we talk about equity, sometimes the rules change when certain groups get up there. And I'm going to go here. With the animal control group that was here, the animal protesting group, that somehow kind of got out of control here. And I wasn't present at that meeting because I was at a conference. But everyone got allowed to speak. And when I see more people of color come in here, I've noticed a couple groups that came up and speak, and all of a sudden the rules change. Now we could go back and forth on this, but the facts are the facts, and the
Those are
rules
not the
didn't
facts,
change.
sir.
Well, I'm saying, Mayor, that all of a sudden those rules changed, and I'm not saying it was pertaining
Absolutely
to that.
not true, sir.
I'm not saying it was pertaining
Absolutely
to, but
not
but
true.
it's kind of strange.
I don't
Now,
appreciate the insinuation.
But no, I'm just saying we can go back and forth. So I'm not going to get in a back and forth discussion with you, but I've noticed that.
I will be responding, sir.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is, I've heard this from these groups, and they feel this way. So you can't change how these groups or individuals feel unless you talk with them. And if you haven't talked with them, they don't feel welcome or a sense of belonging, and they feel that their voices are being somewhat silenced. Okay, and then this is what I'm getting back from certain groups. So that's the whole purpose for me to bring this to the floor. Okay.
Thank you, Vice Mayor German. I will speak to the facts with regard to back in January and February and March of last year when we heard from numerous people with regard to an issue, and each of them had 3 minutes to give time. There were not people that spoke as a group. In fact, as Commissioner St. Clair indicated at our Legislative Policy Committee meeting last week or 2 weeks ago when we talked about this item, that group had organized, and instead of speaking for 10 minutes as a group, they organized and each spoke at 3 minutes. 3 minutes to one person, they handed off 3 minutes to another person, handed off 3 persons to another people. They were organized. In terms of the groups you're speaking of, I have met with them and engaged with them, both those wonderful ladies, and on a number of occasions and spoken with them, and I provided them 10 minutes to speak on multiple occasions. So they have had that opportunity to speak in spite of not registering in advance with the city clerk as a group, which is our policy and our rules. So I've deviated from our rules to accommodate them to speak. So I push back very, very much on the insinuation that I am disenfranchising or marginalizing anyone in our community. I welcome people to speak their minds here, and I have endeavored over the years to give our residents ample opportunities to speak their minds, not only here, but in our community, and I hold additional office hours before our commission meetings to be available. So I just have to very emphatically push back against the insinuation that I am administering these rules differently for people in our community based upon socioeconomic factors or what have you. That is just not true. In fact, Mr. Commissioner Hood, when we added the time clock, because we were talking about some people occasionally getting grace, occasionally 1 minute grace, and I'd heard that from folks on this commission, and I heard that from the community as well, in terms of how we're administering those 3 minute rules. And so I asked the city clerk to add the time clock there so that folks can better regulate themselves, and so that I can point to the time clock and say, I'm sorry, your time is done. When we added that time clock, Commissioner Hood did emphasize that we need to make sure that it's being applied to everyone equally. And the very next meeting, we had a gentleman from our community speak, who I will say a white heterosexual cisgendered man of wealth and privilege who spoke, and I cut him off right at those 3 minutes. I was not going to give him any extra time because we emphasized that 3 minutes is the rules, and those are the rules going forward. And so I just, again, have to push back against that insinuation, and I find it rude and offensive. I'm sorry. That's my feelings. Okay. But I'm going to go to Commissioner Ramsey.
And then I'd like to follow up.
I'm going to Commissioner Ramsey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Vice Mayor. What I would like to do is appreciate the passion that is coming out of this bench right now. We all care about this community. That's why we're here. Some of us in very particular ways, others in different other ways. I'm going to reiterate that what this does is takes all of the questioning that we just heard between two individuals out of the process. We don't get to decide who groups are based on the color of their skin. We don't get to decide who groups are based on what or who they represent. We don't get to decide any of that. That takes those variables away from someone other than the person who's standing up to talk to interpret. So the reason that this does work is because it provides accessibility to anyone who wants to stand up here as someone who cares about this community and talk about it, as long as it pertains to either the public comment that is open to anything or the one for this agenda. And I think that both of you are wonderful for bringing up this tonight, and that it really does prove our case and make a point about why we need to make sure that we don't get to decide or dictate who gets a chance to talk and for how long. This makes it even Stevens across the board and takes away the question. I can never accuse Anne Marie Miche of liking Kimberly more than she likes Rachel, because Kimberly got 10 minutes and Rachel only got 3. And all that does is build our relationships with our neighbors and show to them that we respect them as people, and that's all that we have to do.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey.
May I follow up?
Commissioner Gorman or Emery, opportunity? I prefer to go to roll call.
I want to comment on something that you
I will
said.
give you.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Let me remind you, last meeting that we had, one of the group members came up from 3NC Threads, and you said 3 minutes. And you stated that a couple of times, and they said, well, it's not on the form there. So you were enforcing that 3 minutes, and she was representing herself as a group at that point in time. So I'm not insinuating anything. Okay, these things, that happened at that meeting. Now, what I stated to you, what my constituents and people in the community were saying. I wasn't saying that, Mayor Johnson implemented this just to marginalize anybody. So let's be clear about that. So, and to Commissioner Ramsey's point, very well said. I just disagree with this portion, and that's all right. You know, and I like to allow people to be able to voice their opinions. You know, if it takes 2 minutes, if it takes 10 minutes, that's fine. This is what we're elected to do. You know, to serve as public servants, and it's not going to cost us anything to allow time. So,
Thank you, Vice Mayor
Yeah.
German. I would appreciate your clarifying remarks. Will note, though, that at that last meeting that you referenced, Ms. Mario did receive 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I had acknowledged our policy and that you need to register with the city clerk's office in advance as a group to be acknowledged as a group to speak for 10 minutes. She was unaware of that policy, so I gave her the benefit of the doubt and let her speak for 10 minutes. So she was not declined that opportunity to speak as a group. She did avail herself of that opportunity. So I just wanted to clarify that. Roll call, please.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor German,
no.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next up, item 7Q, Vice Mayor German.
Okay. All right. I move to approve the first amendment between the city of Muskegon and Muskegon Heights for the water operations authorized by the city manager to sign.
Support.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor German, supported by Commissioner Ramsey. May we have a report out from our city manager?
As the commission's aware, we've been providing operators in charge, or OIC, for both water distribution and the water plant for our neighbors in the city of Muskegon Heights. Because of some staffing challenges during the month of March, they had requested if we had the flexibility to provide some staff during some actual operators at the plant in addition to the operators in charge. We were able to accommodate that request, but because it's technically tweaking the agreement that we had, Attorney Schreier and I drafted up this rather straightforward amendment that just goes through the end of March. That will allow us to provide operators. Generally, it'll probably be for 2 days per week. It's not for an entire shift. It's about 5 hours per shift. So that's what this agreement will do. So.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Manager. Vice Mayor German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And I just wanted to make clear because there was concerns and some rumors going around that the city of Muskegon was taking over the water department of the Muskegon Heights, and I just wanted the public to know that's not the case.
Yes, sir.
So you basically gave that explanation. Thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you, Vice Mayor German.
Yep. Welcome.
Commissioner Ramsey, as
Yeah.
supporter, do you have anything to ask or add?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for those of you who caught our legislative policy meeting, we discussed this at length there, and my question to the manager then was, is our staff being compensated for finding the extra time in their days to do this? And the response was yes. And so I just want to thank the city manager and staff for doing this work for our neighbors and to urge us to continually be as neighborly as possible during this kind of stressful time for one of our sister cities, to make sure that there are our other set of neighbors don't experience anything that's going on at something that they're not involved in. And so thank you guys so much for showing up and showing out. And I urge us as a city to continue to do everything that we need to do to support the Heights during this transition.
You're here. Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey. Commissioners, any other comments or questions on this item? No? All right. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next up, we have a public hearing for recommendation for annual renewal of liquor licenses.
Oh, you need a motion.
Yeah. Do you need a motion to open the public hearing?
Recommendation for adoption. Closing. Sure. The public hearing is open, but do we? Do we have a resolution? I don't see a resolution.
There are no businesses left on the list that,
Meaning, what is the implications of
there's-
that then?
then we don't have to send a resolution to the state recommending non-renewal of their license.
So then, do we not need this public hearing anymore?
I think
not
we
need the public hearing.
don't need the public hearing.
All right.
Okay.
Easy.
Very good news. Very good.
Way to go, team. Way to go, clerk's
Very
office.
smooth.
The team
To our
effort, treasurer's
businesses,
office.
yeah,
And-
the treasurers and the safe
Safe
built.
Built.
They all everybody work together.
Yeah, speak to that. Let's, since we've got this on the agenda, can you speak to this process and what your office and what our other departments have done to make sure that our liquor license holders across our city are in compliance and are able to continue maintaining and using their liquor licenses?
Sure. So many departments are involved: the treasurer's, income tax, safe built, the police department. Who am I missing? Our office, obviously, and they have and safe built. They have to be in compliance with all of our departments. They can't have any monies owing to the city, or unless they have some kind of agreement with the treasurer's office. And safe built, they have to be up to date, and compliant with all of their items too. They have to fill out an application. It's $100 fee. Most years, there's at least one or two businesses that are sent to the state not recommending compliance. So we are really excited that this year, every single one of our liquor license establishments are in compliance.
Excellent. That might be the first
In a while.
Yeah.
Very
Okay.
happy.
Okay.
And you guys are working on this up till today.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we got the
That's-
last ones off today.
Yeah. And did I not hear last night that one member of your staff went and reached out to every single
Yes. A big
license
thank you
holder
to
that had not
Tiara
submitted?
Clark in our office, who
Oh, my.
actually worked very diligently on this, and even besides emailing, calling, mailing, actually went to these businesses, knocked on their door to get them into compliance. So she worked really hard at it.
That's awesome. Please extend our appreciation and gratitude to
Thank you.
Tiara. All right, we have another public hearing. As with regard to Brownfield Plan Amendment, a second amendment for Adelaide Point QOZB. I think that's a Qualified Opportunity Zone Development Services.
Hello.
Mrs. Alexander, welcome.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Contessa Alexander. I'm the development analyst for the city of Muskegon, and I'm here to talk about the second amendment to the Brownfield Plan Amendment for Adelaide Point. So the second amendment was developed and prepared due to the changes with the developer and the city of Muskegon. So the city of Muskegon is no longer bonding, paying for, or constructing any assets with this project. The developer will undertake all of these costs. This will cause a shift to the Brownfield TIF table. So this will allow for the developer to receive 100% reimbursement for eligible activities. This morning, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority did meet and approve this Brownfield Second Amendment. Jake Eckham is here, and Kirk, the consultant, is here to provide any details for the project and any questions or comments you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners. Well, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open it to the public first, and then I'll ask for the commission if you have any questions of Mrs. Alexander or any other staff members, and then your feedback before we go to vote. So as this is a public hearing on this Brownfield Plan Amendment, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this item? Going once? Going twice? Since we do also have the phone-in opportunity, is there anyone that may wish to phone in as part of this public hearing, if that's permitted during public hearing? Okay.
We're still there.
He's gonna list it for us. Derek, are you putting out the phone number?
Come on.
Jeopardy music.
That's probably not what we're going to be calling it. This is a very specific item, but since we have added the phone-in option for public comment, I think it is appropriate that we also allow people to participate by phone during public hearings as well.
Mr. Mayor, it would appear that the phone number is now being screened across the bottom of
Okay.
TV screen.
We'll give it a couple few minutes, but in the meantime, we can ask staff of any questions. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff on this item? Commissioners, do you have?
I have a question, but it has nothing to do with this item. It's more about the TV screen.
Okay.
So I think that I put it at the end of the thing to say super cool for putting the number up because I saw it earlier. But is the number overlapping the
Closed captioning.
thank you for that word. I never would have got there, Mr. Manager.
No, they're separate
Overlapping the
lines.
closed. Then I wonder if we can't just always have
It's not.
the comment call up there.
It may be confusing
Oh,
if it's
yeah,
there
valid.
the whole time.
Okay.
People will be trying to call in and give comment when it's not opportune to give comment.
Okay. Well,
There's no comment.
right. There's no comment. No comment, Commissioner Ramsey, but thank you for trying. No, yeah, I think that's great. Great job, city office and video guy.
So no questions. Oh, Vice Mayor Jeremy.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I do have a question. Thank you, Ms. Alexander. By the developer taking on 100% responsibility for this project, I guess, does that give him the leverage to pretty much privatize as much as he wants to? Will that eliminate any type of public access?
No, not from my knowledge. So the reimbursement will be for all the eligible activities related to public infrastructure costs.
The cooperative use agreement would still be in place, and that
Okay.
governs the access.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
And I will be back again a little bit later to discuss the Second Amendment for the DRA.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. There's a second part to this, or corollary part to this. All right. Anyone wishing to phone in?
No.
Public comment? No? All right. Commissioners, it's your pleasure. Would you like to close the public hearing and move forward with approving the resolution?
Yeah, I motion for that. I motion to close this public hearing and approve the motion or whatever.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner Hood, to close the public hearing and to approve the resolution for the Brownfield Plan Amendment, Second Amendment for the Adelaide Point project, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to sign. Any final thoughts, questions, or comments before we vote? No? All right. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That's it for our public hearings. Next up, we have unfinished business. Housing Board of Appeals demolition for 835 West Forest. Public safety.
Mr. Mayor, with your permission, the motion that staff is recommending is not the motion that you have in front of you. Rather, it is a motion to refer this matter back to the Housing Board of Appeals. The reason for that change in the motion is that since we were here last week, the property owners have come in and pulled permits.
With that said, yeah, progress. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good thing. With that said, given that the original motion was to concur and then it was tabled, does the original motion maker and the supporter need to accept a friendly amendment? Can they withdraw it? Do we just amend it? Does someone need to make a motion to amend that original
You
motion?
don't need to amend what was made before. It's action tonight.
You know, I'm saying that original
Right.
motion though is to concur. You're wanting to change it
Correct.
to return it. And so what I'm saying is that we have a motion essentially on the table because we just tabled it to till tonight. And so now that we have that,
But you would have had to make that motion again.
okay.
The matter.
Okay.
was-
So the matter was tabled, not the motion
Correct.
itself. Okay, I just want to get clarity. Then I would welcome. Would you like to? Oh.
I motion to refer back to the Housing Board of Appeals on this matter.
Support. We have a motion by Commissioner St. Clair, supported by Vice Mayor German, to refer back to the Housing Board of Appeals this matter.
Support. Is that what you need?
Nope, I think I got
Or we
Vice
got
Mayor
it.
German
Okay.
supported it. Seeking, I'm going to refer back to you. You made the motion. I guess you might welcome Chief Kozel to report out on this. Give us an update as to what this revised staff recommendation is, and where we're at today, and what can we expect going forward.
Our hope is they continue with the communication, with Safe Built. The Safe Built has actually been inside the house for the first time, so that's good that they've been able to get outside. Permits been pulled. They've given us some recommendations. There's probably going to be a necessity for some additional permits, but at this point, let's get it back to HBA, and then the HBA, of course, will give them an extended period of time. The permits that are pulled will be for a period of 6 months, so I could see that once it goes to HBA, there'll be additional time given before they have any other further notices.
Okay. Commissioner Hood?
Yes. I just want to make a statement that I'm glad that you guys went and pulled the permits, and we can see this progress because, I mean, we struggled, and no one wanted to see anyone lose their home because of no permits being pulled or because supposedly a dangerous building, and maybe it wasn't, but the city couldn't get in to see. So I'm glad this looks like it's working out, and I just hope you just keep it up. Get in there, get your house together, and this can be a happy experience for all of us. A good experience.
Thank you, Commissioner Hood. Just a moment, Mr. Padilla. Commissioners, do you have any other questions for Chief Kozel? Nope. All right, Mr. Padilla, as the representative of the property and the property owner, if you could just provide your name.
Jesus Padilla. So last 14 days ago, he said that I had no permit for electric and all that. They came in and it was all approved since 17. So all that stuff he was saying was just like lies. I'm saying if you guys would have voted me, what would have happened to my house? So I'm pretty upset about that. It's right here.
Electrical from 17.
Thank you.
So if you guys would have voted, I would have lost my house.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. All of the building permits and inspection permits that have been pulled over the past several years were shared with the City Commission, so we have copies of everything that was presented. But I'm glad that you've pulled additional permits and are making headway on finalizing the improvements that are necessary for your home, and doing so through the proper channels and ensuring that it's done safely. Because it's not, we want to make sure that the home is not only safe for you and your family or any other future tenants, but it's also safe for your neighbors as well.
Yeah, I know, I understand that part, but what about the other people that didn't get as lucky as me? What about them? Did he lie on them too? Like, that's what I'm talking about. I don't know.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. Vice Mayor German?
Yeah, thank you. That's good news, and I'm really glad that both of you did what you had to do to pull those permits. And I understand how you feel. I mean, because coming in front of a commission who has the power to make the decision, decide whether you're going to lose your home or not, and given the fact, and then not all of the facts, because there were some things that we didn't know. So the initiative and the persistence that you took and stayed steadfast to continue to make those improvements. We want to see that, come all the way to a conclusion where you and your mate could just live in your home peacefully and not have to go through this again. So just make sure, I would say, you attend the Housing Board of Appeals meetings, and if there's any issues, feel free to reach out. But I do have a question for Public Safety and Chief Kozel. The inspectors, and I was reading some of the reports, and it says dangerous buildings and stuff like that. How many of them are actually contractors, building contractors? I'm not saying that the reports was not accurate, but I would think that would take some type of professional skill or training to make that determination.
I'd love to give you a comment on that. I don't know what the requirements are to be just a building inspector or a rental inspector. I don't know. I don't believe that it's going to have a contractor's license to be able to do that. The building code is pretty specific as far as the dangerous buildings. I mean, it's a pretty large section of our ordinance. that you have to follow. So I think that's what they're doing, is trying to see if you follow that section. So I wish I could give you a yes or no on that. I just don't have that answer. I'm sorry.
All right, appreciate it, because I know it didn't look like a dangerous building, and I've seen dangerous buildings, so that's the nature of my question there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor German.
Yeah.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments you wish to make on this item? Commissioner Ramsey.
I'm going to do my best. In all situations in communication and dealings with the city or Safe Build at any level, communication is key. And we never would have heard this case, and I'm not going to come for anyone the way that other people are coming for us, had communication been effective on both ends, regardless of whose fault it is or who wants to point a finger and blame. I will also say that the definition of a dangerous home or a dangerous building is not up for debate or interpretation by us as individuals. There are many different things that are taken into account. I would again invite all of you to come to a HBA meeting or to sit down and read our Housing Board Code of Appeals, as I know the Vice Mayor has done because he was on the board before I was. I'm very excited that this has happened and that you guys are getting to move forward with this project. But I will say again that we didn't have to get this far, right? Unfortunately, it did. So the way that we stop that from continuing is through communication. I'm excited to see you guys come to the HBA and share what you've done, so we can say, hey, table it for 6 months and we'll see it. We'll look at it again when these permits are closed. Congratulations. And again, anyone who has more questions, you have the phone numbers to reach out to everyone who works at Safe Built. You know how to get a hold of Chief. And you're all invited to come to the meeting to understand how these processes work and why.
Could you share, Commissioner Ramsey, when and where the HBA meets? Does it
the first Thursday of the month at 5:30 in this room right here.
In this room. First Thursday at 5:30? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So
that
it is
that
open
could
to
be
the
a lie.
public.
But I think it is the first Thursday at 5:30.
Do you want to confirm, Chief?
It is the first Thursday at 5:30. I'm a winner.
First
Yeah, no.
Thursday of every month. And if there are proceedings, then there'll be a Housing Board of Appeals meeting here at 5:30 in this room. It is open to the public. Anyone is welcome to attend. And if you're not able to attend physically, you are welcome to request Zoom access. And that will be provided to you if you're not able to be here in person physically.
Yeah. They're not exciting all the time, but I mean, you're more than welcome to come and watch.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Yes.
Vice Mayor German?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hood?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. New business. 10A has been removed per staff request. Moving on to 10B, second quarter budget reforecast. I got some good news from our finance director, Kent Grant. Welcome.
Good evening, Commissioner. I just wanted to, I hope you had time to look at the package that I gave you. I highlighted a lot of the changes in yellow. We have some minor changes and major changes, and I will go over the highlights of those changes. The one big change that I'm happy about is our revenues and income tax. Income tax numbers are continually grow every year. We see our employers, everybody's getting nice raises and things like that, so that shows that our economy is healthy. So we're upping our original projection for income tax this year was 9.3, but through the first half of the year, I think it's going to be 10.75. It might be closer to 11 million. So that is a good thing. So that is a great. I always like to see the income tax numbers go up. Another thing that another source of revenue that we got that increased significantly over last year was marijuana excise tax money. We got $622,000 this year. That was a little more than last year. The previous year we got $450,000. So that's nice. But along with revenues, we also have some major increases in expenditures. Police and fires which are pretty much, the police is our largest. They use most of our general fund. They're probably a third of our general fund expenses. Their salaries went up about $200,000. fire went up about 300,000. It's because of healthcare, overtime, variable factors that happened to that, that increased the. I know in the police department, we had some nice contracts and those raises went in effect. The fire department, we did hire 3 additional firefighters, but we try to budget that out. But the numbers are true; they're coming up a little higher than we projected originally. So I made adjustments to those. Another thing that we, when we got done with our budget, not our budget, but our audit, the marina needed a lot of money, so we had to increase the money that we had to do a deficit elimination plan, and we have to contribute more money from the general fund to balance out the marina. We also have to increase some, we have to transfer additional funds to our engineering services because the revenue wasn't enough to cover the cost that we did, so I recommended another $185,000 to go there. Despite the increases in some expenditures, right now, halfway through the year, our revenues are exceeding our expenditures by 300,000. I mean, 3 million. Sorry, not 300,000, but 3 million. But we have some departments that spend more money in the spring, like parks and things like that. So and I don't expect that 3 million to stay that way.
It'd be nice.
I know, but it'd be nice to stay that way. But
it's not
we're going to see some departments spend way more money in the spring than we do in the fall and winter. So I expect that. So also. Going from the general fund, so Trinity Health Arena, we noticed that the arena is always we just inherited I don't know what to say, it's a money pit. I'm going to say it could be because it's just when the county gave it to us, the condition of the building was in bad shape. We had to add compressors, we had to always do roof repairs, things like that, and we just do not generate enough revenue to cover our expenditures. So and we've been doing a great job. Our Marina director, Jake LeMay, has been coming up with ideas to try to close that gap, but we just cannot close that gap. So I'm requesting that we transfer another $350,000 from the general fund to cover that. And maybe more in the third quarter, but we're trying to see through the hockey season if we could generate more revenue. And again, with the marina fund, I already talked about the engineering services, not that much. But the marina is another area where we just don't have, with the flooding and the T-Dock went down, we just don't generate enough money to cover the expenditures at the marina. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions of any of the highlighted areas, I'll be glad to take any questions at this time.
Thank you, Director Grant. Commissioner Ramsey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And you'll be happy to know I don't have any questions.
Oh, that's great.
Right, because this is way above my pay grade. But I do want to share with you, Director Grant, that you guys do a great job. You do a wonderful job in this, but you just said something that's super, super important. Both our arena and our marina, which are two very different things, are not making money. And for me, Michael Ramsey, someone who lives very near to downtown, that doesn't upset me. What they provide for our community is a communal space for people from every walk of life to come together and enjoy themselves and to feel comfortable. So I think that anytime we get to do that, that's awesome. There's so much benefit there that is not going to be seen in dollars and cents. So as we move forward, do we have a director of marinas the way that we have a Jake LeMay? Is that Kyle?
Management company.
Okay.
We contract that out with someone else.
Anytime that you can share with us here so that our neighbors hear it as well, so that they understand where their dollars are going and how they're continuing to benefit our city as a whole is a great opportunity. Having Jake up here to share that, having the management company from the marina up here to share that, whatever's happening, I think is an awesome opportunity so that people understand how they're spending their money.
Yep, and that's why we want to just make you aware that I'm not going to make decisions, but
all the good
that
news
is
all
just
day.
a general fund money is. If you guys approve it, we'll spend it or send it to whatever fund you want us to do.
Yes, thank you so much. All the good news all day.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey. Commissioner Hood.
Ditto. Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay.
Vice Mayor German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Director Grant, for that report. As always, you're on top of things, and that makes us very informed. Looking at those deficits, though, just a question, have we considered any other options for grants or anything, particularly like for the marina, Is there anything out there that the state could actually help us with?
We always looking for grants, and if something comes across our lap that we feel that's beneficial to us, we would apply for it. So I'm not necessarily looking for it, but other departments we have. Pete Wills is very good at looking up, finding grants and things like that, and so we have a good team that. But I'm not trying to put him on the spot. But if he sees something out there, he lets me know, or he lets the appropriate person know that we should apply for this grant.
Yeah. And it's good to hear that the income tax, and quite sure with all the development and housing, property taxes will be pretty good as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor German. Commissioner Emery, did I see?
Yeah, I just have a question. Do you know off the top of your head what the marina costs us every year?
Let me see. I may have it. It's in that package.
That package of tiny print.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
It was easier to let you find it in the package than me to find it. Maybe.
I did print up the 252. I could get that to you. I don't have that. Oh, let me see. You know what? I have my budget.
Do you know the account number?
I have my budget book right here.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Was it 350?
Sorry. Here it is. I'm sorry. It takes me a moment. Okay, here it is. I know it's in very small print. The marina normally generates about $270,000 in revenue, but it normally spends closer to $400,000. So that's why we're always kind of in the hole.
Thank
Marina or arena?
Marina.
Marina.
The marina. So we just do not generate enough revenue. In a couple years, we had a flood and knocked out some of our docks, and it's just we're not treading enough water. Not
Thank you
enough
for that. I
revenue.
just want our public, our citizens to know why we're having to put $450,000 into it.
And then I did talk to some of the management companies, and they're thinking of ideas of trying to come up with ways to generate more revenue too. So it's just always, but it's just a challenge, and our marina is just not in the best shape. It is not competitive with the other ones, and so it's just we have to put more money in to make money, and we're already whole.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Emery. Commissioner Gorman, do you have anything to ask or add right now? All right, Commissioner St. Clair, anything to ask or add right now? All right, Commissioner Ramsey.
Yeah, this is not for you, Director Grant, but thank you. Mr. Manager, I would like to for you to have maybe schedule a sit down with our management company and our new Director of Parks and Recreation, and just see if there is an opportunity for the space itself to better serve our neighbors the way that we've done with the arena. We've paid a lot of attention to the arena and really brought it through a lot of various stages so that it serves better. We may not have hit all the goals we wanted to with everybody feeling welcome and safe in that space, but it's something that we work toward every day. And so how can we start to do the same at the marina? And even though it may not ever pay for itself, I'm certain we can close a $450,000 gap a little bit tighter. So I would invite that once everybody gets in place, just to see, and maybe talk to our neighbors about what they would use at a community-centric marina. But I also don't know, so maybe I'm wrong. I doubt it, but maybe.
what is your outlook on that, Mr. Manager? Because we talked about that before as well, of engaging the community about the use of that marina and also the financing aspects of it, and what is the future of that marina for our community? Do you envision having standalone kind of engagement sessions, or as part of the comprehensive update to our Parks and Recreation Master Plan, or how do you envision proceeding?
I would think that would be more integrated with our Parks and Rec Master Plan because it is a park within our park system. So that would be the appropriate time to have that conversation.
Okay. So stay tuned, because it is very important how it is. Because I'm of the same mind of how we can make it more community centric and available to our residents. Because right now it's not so much. Like, it is open. It's a public marina. It's a municipal marina.
Yeah.
It's open to anybody.
Right.
But oftentimes it's reserved for just the slip holders. And so how can we make it more accessible and also democratize it, so to speak?
Yeah.
But also justify the subsidy.
Right, because at that point, I mean, even
significant
if it's costing us $400,000, at least we know that our neighbors, and us included, because we are neighbors, get to use the thing, and it's worth it. It's worth what it's costing us. So if you could fix that, that'd be great. Thanks.
Yes, let's get that fixed.
Hit the easy button.
Yeah.
Not sure if I can sign off on $450,000 annual subsidy, but I can understand some level of subsidy may be necessary for the marina as well as the arena. And as Commissioner Ramsey indicated, we spent quite a bit of money on the marina, or the arena, millions and millions of dollars in recent years on capital improvements and updates and upgrades, and making it a much better facility, and adding more programming to make it more inviting and welcoming of people across our city and greater Muskegon, and be an integral part of the revitalization of our downtown. I would like to emphasize that we can make extra effort, further continuous improvement. Reinforce that continuous improvement
always
of making that arena accessible and welcoming of folks from all walks of life, and so that our community is reflected in the users of that arena. And one thing that I know that maybe I assume they still agree on this note, but I know we've talked about this past, Commissioner Hood and Vice Mayor German, specifically about getting the Laycocks. And I've spoken with our past city manager. I think I mentioned to our current city manager not too long ago that it'd be great if we can find a way, and it's going to require some investment, but find a way for our arena to be able to be home to the Laycocks basketball team, a team that is based in the city of Muskegon, that is minority owned in the city of Muskegon, and to be able to make that arena home to them as well. I think that would be an improvement. Personally, we need to understand how we can do that and what the cost would be, and if we can justify those costs. But I would love to find a way in that regard. So we want to bring that up. Particularly, so the $350,000 for the arena, we may be kicking in another $350 in addition to the $350 we have.
I just don't know until the third quarter is over how much we may have to do. But
so it could be $700,000.
In the past, we usually gave the arena $750,000 a year. So
that's a more recent development.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, it fluctuates so much.
Yeah.
Because annually we do $350. That's just like the baseline.
Yeah.
And then we'll see how the year
we started off more conservative this year because we were trying to implement new revenue sources and things like that. So we're starting $350, and I'm going to look at it again in the third quarter and see if I need to adjust that again, up or down.
Yeah. Will that also then be part of our Parks and Recreation Master Plan update as well? The arena?
Yeah, but
seems like a recreational facility.
Yeah, it's more of a recreational facility. That's something that we're talking about how to figure that going forward. So
I think we all, I believe we all, my sense of the commission is we all would like to see that subsidy narrowed as much as possible while making the arena as welcoming and open as possible, and beneficial to the community at the same time, knowing that we may have to subsidize it to some extent. I'm personally not keen on an $800,000 a year subsidy, but some level of subsidy. I'm sure Director Grant's not keen on a $800,000 a year subsidy either.
Nope, I'm not.
But I will say, as has been said already, great work.
Thank you.
Your management of the finance department.
My staff and all the departments work hard on this all year, so it's a teamwork.
Yeah,
it's a team thing.
Well, please express the commission's gratitude to your entire team on this, and we'd love to see when those numbers are going in our favor. So,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
Commissioners, any final thoughts before we go to roll call or vote? All right. Roll call, please.
I don't think you did a motion.
Oh, did I not?
Nope.
You're right.
Yeah.
We did not receive a motion.
I have a motion to something.
To approve.
Oh, I don't know what I'm motioning. Never mind, I'm a liar.
I found it.
All right. Commissioner St. Clair.
I motion to approve the second quarter fiscal year 22-23 budget reforecast as presented.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner St. Clair, supported by Commissioner Ramsey, to approve the second quarter fiscal year 2022 to 2023 budget reforecast as presented. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor German?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hood?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, so we are back at the Brownfield Development, or back at the Adelaide Point, this time with regard to a second amendment to the Brownfield Development and Reimbursement Agreement. This is that corollary that we talked about earlier. And welcome back, Mrs. Alexander.
Again. So the second amendment to the Brownfield Development Reimbursement Agreement, this was prepared due to, as I mentioned earlier, the developer and the city of Muskegon changing with the public infrastructure cost. So as mentioned, the developer will be taking and undertaking all of the costs related to public infrastructure. The city of Muskegon will not. So whenever there is a, from my understanding, whenever there's a new Brownfield Plan amendment, there will be a new development reimbursement or an addendum to the development reimbursement agreement. This morning as well, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority did approve this development reimbursement agreement as well.
Thank you for that update.
Yep.
So that we may proceed, can I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve the resolution for the Brownfield Development and Reimbursement Agreement for Adelaide Point QOZB LLC, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner Gorman. Before we go to roll call, do you have any questions for staff on this item? All right, any comments before we go to vote?
I have a quick comment. Vice Mayor German said something super important earlier. He brought up the point of, does this change the access or the relationship that we have with Adelaide Point, with a developer, we'll just say that, in regards to their views and how they interact with us about public access. And I think it's super important for us to remember that when we are creating partnerships and relationships with our, with would-be developers in Muskegon, the city of, that it's important to foster relationships with them as well and to do the right thing by them and to come to the table and have conversations that are lucrative for both parties while respecting, at the end of the day, who we both represent. And the vice mayor said that in so many words. And so I want to encourage people to think about that as we move forward with business deals that especially affect our lake shore and the access that one may have to it, that we have got to show up and be a part of a team. Right? Which our city staff does every day. And maybe we could be better at sharing that with you guys. But I encourage you guys to be a part of that team as well. And I think that that's a great takeaway from this entire experience tonight.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey. Anything else, commissioners? All right. So just to reinforce that, and as our manager alluded to earlier, referenced, the cooperative use agreement remains. That is not affected by this, and so as part of that, as long as we are providing that access to use of our Hartshorn Marina launch ramp and the drop lift on a non-exclusive, non-preferential basis, then we and our community will have access to the entire shoreline of the Adelaide Point property, as well as the public amenities and improvements that will be coming along that waterfront. So that's going to continue. Regardless. And then also the good news for folks at home and in the audience is that, as you may recall, last month when we didn't vote on the addendum, we pushed that off, and then the conversation with the developer and staff was like, the city's not going to need to bond that $10.5 million after all. And that's the great news. So we're not going to be bonding $10.5 million, and therefore we do not need to have reimbursement from the brownfield to pay ourselves back. for that. Instead, the developer is going to be funding that entire cost and then capturing the incremental growth from their development. And so the pressure to deliver is going to be on the developer. They're going to front the money, they're going to invest, and then they're going to be able to capture from the taxable revenue that is created from their development to pay themselves back. In the meantime, we get a magnificent, new, beautiful development that's going to be welcoming new residents, supporting new businesses, creating recreational opportunities, and benefiting our citizenry at the same time, and creating new income tax revenue. So I am excited to see this get off the ground, and I just heard today that the groundbreaking for Adelaide Point, I don't know if they've announced yet, so I might be jumping the gun, but I got the text. So commissioners, put it on your calendar if you care to be there. But the groundbreaking is going to be May 1st at 11 a.m. So, roll call, please.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hood?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Yes.
Vice Mayor German?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and thank you to Mr. Liesma and Liesma Management for pursuing this project and substantial investment in our city. Next up, 1095 Third Street, talking about additional investments in our city, and we're so excited that there are 3 different entities wishing to invest and redevelop the former Catholic Charities building on 3rd Street. And so we had quite a bit of discussion last night, or a review of proposals last night, led out by our Development Services Director, Jake Ekholm. And so we had that review of proposals, opportunity for question and answer, and to give our insights. And now we're here tonight to decide how we're going to proceed. Which of the proposals are we going to go with? So Director Ekholm, if you'd like to come up to the podium. And we're going to hold off on the motion just yet, because as you can see, the motion is blank on which proposal. But if you maybe if you have anything to add since last night, and maybe an opportunity for the commission to ask you any additional questions before we proceed with a specific motion.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I think what I'll do very briefly is just kind of quickly run through the overarching proposals as they relate to the unit type. So we have 3 proposals, one that is a non-LIHTC traditional market rate developer, and then 2 low-income housing tax credit developers. The market rate proposal is from West Urban Properties. They have the most proposed units as to what's been printed and submitted to the packet. They also are committed to exploring in their pro forma tenant-based Section 8 vouchers, housing choice vouchers. That's crucial in the sense that it's the first new construction housing tenant-based vouchers proposed that we've had in quite a while. The other 2 are both 9% low-income housing tax credit proposals that would be a competitive process through MISHTA. All of those units would be anywhere from 30% AMI up to traditionally up to 80, and then they can also include some market rate units as well. Both of those are very similar in unit count, 49 units from Spire Development and then 51 units from General Capital. So all 3 of them are very strong proposals. They all have an income subsidized component to them, and then they all did a really nice job answering Commission's questions and giving brief overviews last night. So with that, I don't have much to add, and I would be happy to entertain any questions that you've thought of since yesterday.
Thank you, Director Ekholm. Commissioners, do you have any questions that have surfaced since last night's discussion on this? No. So,
Yeah.
question?
So last
Yes,
night I
go
commented on how exciting it was to have 3 big developers at our table wanting to do work in our community. And so, Director Ekholm, I know that you made mention of it last night, but I would like you to say for whoever is tuning in tonight, that there is opportunity for us as a city to work with all 3 of these individual organizations, just maybe not on this one project, right? That there's more than enough to go around. And as we look at moving forward, again, we are very lucky and in a wonderful place for our city to be, where people are coming to us. And that's something that our neighbors have mentioned many times. And so I want everyone to recognize that we're there and to congratulate city staff on the work that they do. But just share any other opportunities that they might have.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point. So I mentioned briefly and referenced briefly one of the 400 pages in our newly minted housing needs assessment that we've received back from Bowen National Research. And so, and I said last night, I'll say again, the number, when you read that page, should shock you. If it doesn't, I would encourage you to read it again, because it shows that over the next 5 years, we need to increase our housing stock by approximately 20%, or nearly 3,000 housing units. That's split relatively evenly, roughly 1,600 rental units and 1,300 and change for owner-occupied, and they're divided pretty proportionately between all price points. So there are certainly opportunities, land-based opportunities all across the city for all three of these developers. Two of them have done projects with us before. Got to have a brief conversation last evening with Spire Development, and have already identified a potential site for them to take a look at as well, either in addition to or instead of, depending on how tonight goes. Yeah, I would love to see all three of them have projects this calendar year, because there's certainly the housing need, especially in the workforce level housing and below. So.
Thank you, Dr. Echolm. Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey. Vice Mayor German.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Director Echolm, for the report. One of the concerns that I had was the actual price for units, and as I think it was Mr. Duzendine stated, right at this point in time, they just don't know due to various reasons, construction costs, labor, all of that. And you stress the need for more housing as well. And just looking at the housing market out there, and then also the economy, you know, you have two banks that done failed just recently. I don't know if you caught that on the news, but that can have a down effect on maybe the housing market. That I share that concern as well. But I don't see, make me understand that building more units at all price points, and we talk about the affordable housing. How are we going to, I don't think you can just build your way out of people being homeless. We almost had a gentleman right there that was homeless right here just recently. And thank God he was able to take care of business. But I guess my point of view, just traveling around the nation and working with different organizations and seeing the different outcomes of these developments, housing projects, gentrification, I don't see the progress of more people having houses, because there's some that just can't afford them. You know, so I guess my point, getting back to when I asked Mr. Duzendine, the pricing for those units, that is essential to see how these people are going to be able to afford it. And we know that everybody can't afford $1,500 a month. And we talk about using the formula, the AMI at that price point. So, I mean, is there a plan to just, I guess, some type of rent control? Have the city even looked at that to put something in effect? That could be a starting point.
Sure. I think there was a couple questions in there, so I'm gonna go one at a time. So first and foremost, it needs to be made clear that Michigan is one of, I believe, 34 states that specifically outlaws rent control. So we can't put local regulations on rent control for owner-occupied or rental housing or subleases, anything like that. I think the second question pertains to the relative rates of the units. And so I suppose rather than focusing on one individual development, I can focus on all of them. The two LIHTCs, MSHDA releases rent limits by AMI bracket. So from 30% all the way up to 120%, here's what the rent limits are. And they change, and they're county specific, so all 83 Michigan counties get new released rental limits for LIHTC properties from MSHDA every year. So developers who are awarded low-income housing tax credits and build multifamily low-income housing tax credit subsidized apartment complexes, they may not charge more than the rent limit for that income bracket. So if a household comes in and is at 50% AMI and they receive a unit, their rent limit threshold is lower than somebody who may be at 80% AMI for their household size. And so that's how those are determined. On a market rate development, it's based on what they call a pro forma, so making sure construction costs align with financing and cost of money, so interest rates to your point, and against projected revenues from rents, and that's what dictates the market price. In tertiary markets like ours, where we're already in some cases higher than we'd like to see, but lower than what we would see in primary markets, so bigger metro areas, you'll note that our market rate is much closer to those subsidized LIHTC rates than in maybe a Kent County. So the Kent County LIHTC rate is going to be far different than their market rate. So the parity between those two is lower here. It doesn't mean that it is attainable for everybody by any means. And so to the point, and I think what all three of these potential developments do well is that they include good capacity for a blend of price points. And so you'll see a different strategy on the market rate side to achieve that. So a market rate development will have more studios, more one bedrooms, and then try to increase unit density because they're trying to serve a banknote, and so they're trying to get as much rent per square foot as they can without pricing out their target market. And so on the other side, the LIHTC developers, that work is done for them by MSHDA through regulation. So that's really how you achieve the price points that they find. Does that answer the question?
Yeah,
Okay.
that answers it. Thank you. It's just, mind-boggling, because it's definitely a need for, that's a necessity for everyone. Housing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think, Vice Mayor, your point is well made. I think this will be the name of the game for the next decade in the Muskegon area. So we've never, to my knowledge, had a housing gap to this size. I think for the sake of perspective, our 2015 study showed a absorbability rate of around 140 units a year, and that was all types of units. And we knew that we weren't hitting that in any given year, but we were making solid progress. And then we got this back, and it showed, okay, not only were we not hitting it, but despite all the new housing we can point to in the multifamily space and the single family space that we've built or had built or that the private sector has built, the gap got far bigger. And that just shows that two things are happening. One, there's more housing demand in the market here. And we think that a big part of that is the fact that as bad as our problem is, it's worse in Ottawa County and Kent County. And so people are being actively priced out of those housing markets because they are so inflated. So people are rethinking that 30 to 40 minute commute to their work in Grand Rapids or Holland, and then they're living here because while the rents and mortgages have gone up here, they're still cheaper than our surrounding neighbors. And so we're seeing that pressure being put in where new residents are coming in. And then we're also seeing, with historically low interest rates for pretty much up until now, it increased the buyer pool, the number of people that wanted to buy a house, which then put upward pressure on prices.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you, Vice Mayor German.
Yeah, thank you.
That line of inquiry is incredibly important, and one that we're all mindful of and need to continue to reinforce and scrutinize, because we do have a housing
Major
crisis,
problem, yeah.
and we need to address that as we are endeavoring to do so, and as was reflected in, and I think it's gonna be really enlightening when we have that special work session to focus in on the housing study that recently conducted. But as was shared with Director Ekholm last night, snapshot into that is that there's that tremendous demand for housing across all price points, and so any and every housing unit we can get built, whether by ourselves or by privately or in concert with the private sector, the better. Commissioner Ramsey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Vice Mayor. That is a great question. I think that something else that we need to consider is that if we look at all three of the presentations that were given to us last night, they really are diverse in what they're offering out of one single location. And so when we talk about how we're addressing housing needs in so many of our neighborhoods, it really does boil down to being able to do something like that, using this as an example in our other neighborhoods. So that we can have these opportunities that provide housing for just more than one bracket or more than one targeted event, right? So we're looking at low income, we're looking at subsidized, we're looking at that missing middle, which is so important for people to move out of low income and or subsidized into missing middle, and then some high-end townhomes that are for sale or whatever that looks like. But that a lot of that does boil down to us having conversations with our neighbors about that and how form-based code affects that and how it can not encourage gentrification but stop it like we're going to be doing with this building on the corner of 3rd and Houston, because of the myriad of options that are going to be offered through the building itself. So that that is the opportunity that we're looking at, that we're going to need to seriously take apart in all of our other core neighborhoods to begin to truly address this housing crisis.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey. Commissioners, any other questions for staff right now? Are there any follow-up questions since last night for any of the developers who have submitted proposals? Okay. I'm wondering, not to put any, well, I guess put them on the spot, but one of the sticking points for me with one of the proposals last night was the commitment to exploring providing that lower income or subsidized housing, the tenant base, which I think is really intriguing, and I very much welcome the new developments that can accommodate the tenant-based Section 8 housing vouchers. But there was no firm commitment of like, I'm going to target an X percent or X number of units, and so that just gave me pause with regard to that development. And I'm just wondering if we've heard any further insights as to their level of commitment.
Sure. Certainly, and I think that's a fair concern, and I think the way that that's mitigated is the process behind this selection. So, really, what we're asking for this evening is direction on which of these 3 proposals you'd like to see us engage with a draft purchase and development agreement. That purchase and development agreement would include a due diligence period, and that's when that pro forma and potential renderings, final designs, proposed designs that get through zoning or will get through zoning takes place, and then we move to close from there. And so there's lots of touch points for the commission to be like, oh, put the brakes on. You said there were going to be vouchers and there's not. Or, well, I'll pick on General Capital. General Capital, you said these were going to be live-work units, but now you're not showing them as live-work units. So there's all these other points of scrutiny before we get to a final yes, and we did that by design. So we really just want direction because, to your point, there's 3 good proposals, and we believe that there's a good working relationship potential with all 3 of these entities. And so I've given that some thought since last evening as to the vouchers, and I'll be candid. The tenant-based voucher notion was a staff suggested notion some months ago on a different project, and so on a different vacant lot where we were looking at new construction. And so I think the market rate developers, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are like, we hear what's going on when it comes to housing shortage and affordability. It's not in anybody's interest if we can't build something that people can afford to rent, because then we don't pay our note, and it doesn't make sense. So I think that's a reflection of them trying to get creative with how they can infill housing that people can actually afford to pay rent on. And if you look at, tenant defaults and things of that nature, they're continuing to climb, and it's because of upward pressure on prices. So as to, whether or not we could have that person or that entity commit to saying, I will absolutely have X number of tenant-based vouchers, I think that process comes later, and it would come before you again, where they've completed a pro forma and they say, okay, my cost is X thousands of dollars per key, and here's my number of units. And so if I'm going to take difference between market rate on a 1-bedroom and a housing choice voucher, 1-bedroom is probably about $150 a month, give or take. Like I said, there's not a ton of parity there. So in order to do, I'm going to make up a number, 18% of these units at I'm going to have to put upward pressure over here, or I need this abatement to make it work over the life of my note. Those are questions that would get answered over the course of that due diligence period. So it's probably not fair for me to try to get a finite answer out of a developer at this stage of selection.
Okay. Thank you, Director Calm. Could you help explain the timeline? Like, in terms, without going to be...
That was my question.
Could you help explain the timeline in terms of if we move forward with the 2 LIHTCs and they need to apply for their credits and when that would occur, and we do not see any movement until such time, and then the 3rd proposal, if we move forward with them, they would be maybe in position to get redevelopment happening sooner. Could you just speak to the timeline of the 3 proposals?
Sure.
And
So yeah, there are certainly advantages and disadvantages to each. Starting with the two LIHTCs, they're effectively identical. They're both proposing the October submission. I think I mentioned last night. Competitive LIHTC credit projects are submitted to MISTA, the Michigan Statewide Housing Development Authority, in April and October of each year. So there's 2 rounds, and then there's a several-month review period and award period after those timeframes. And so what would happen is, say you award either Spire or General Capital, and we get a purchase and development agreement together over the next 60 to 90 days, come back to you with the final terms. It would include something called a pilot agreement, payment in lieu of taxes agreement, and acquisition agreement. So those are milestones they have to hit before they can submit in October. They also need to get zoning approval and show MISTA that they have zoning approval for whatever their final site plan is. So you would also see final designs as to the site plan and the layout. So that process would take place between effectively April and October when they submit. Then you have your credits awarded, you sell credits, go to bid, get your final architecture, and you go through that traditional construction process we're used to. Realistically, I think if you go with either LIHTC, you're probably looking at spring of 25 lease up, summer 25 lease up, somewhere in there. That's probably roughly accurate. I'm looking for nodding heads from you guys. Yeah, it's in your proposal, and I think I'm copying. I believe I'm reading it verbatim, but but it's not in front of me, so maybe not. Something like that. That's a rough timeline, and so the building, would take longer to be impacted. I would sit longer. And again, it's the other caveat to that is that is a competitive process wherein our chosen developer may not be successful. If they are not, it's likely that they would refine their scope and come back to us with proposed changes where required, and then submit again in April. It often is not uncommon for it to take 2 tries with LIHTCs to get funded. That's been our scenario in several other projects over the years. The market rate side of things, there's probably a more accelerated timeline, but there will be a quicker resolution to a yay or nay, in the sense that due diligence period would probably be 90 to 120 days, where we would have give them what's called an option. They'd put a money deposit down, and this would all be approved by commission in a subsequent document. They'd put some money down on a deposit. It would give them rights to access the building, conduct environmentals, conduct structural engineering, retain an architect to design based on the results of that structural engineering process, and then put together that pro forma I referenced, saying, okay, I've got this much in hard costs. Here's going to be my senior debt. Here's my own money for equity, and then here's how many units I have. So here's what my rents for the market can bear. And here's what they call an internal rate of return, or an IRR. And if that hits the percentage that both the investor, the developer, and the bank like to see, then they green light a project. And so during that 90 to 120 days prior to close, all that work would be done. And then that would take us to July, somewhere in there. And then it would come back to you with final terms. And that is where, to your point and question earlier, you would see a pro forma proposal that would say, we can take X percent of these units and make them voucher units, and here are which units we imagine, whether it's 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and then here are the market rate units, and here's where we're projecting rent. And so then you would have the yay or nay as to whether or not we close.
Thank you, Director.
That was long-winded, but that's the process.
No, I appreciate you spelling out that process and that timeline. Commissioner St. Clair, did you have follow-up? I know you had a question, and it sounded like the same question. I just wondered if you had follow-up.
No, it was the same thing.
With regard to the timeline. So with that timeline, or the timelines for the 3 proposals, if, let's say, one scenario, we opt to go with the market rate, that's inclusive, preferentially, ideally, inclusive of the tenant-based voucher, Section 8 vouchers. If we move forward with that one, they do their due diligence, they bring something to us, we're not satisfied with it, and we can not approve it and redirect to one of the LIHTC developers. That could be a scenario. If in the meantime you'd work with our LIHTC developers on other opportunities at the same time.
Yeah, that's possible. So I think it was actually mentioned by one of the 2 proposals with LIHTC. I think they asked, if you go with the market rate, at least leave enough time where we could still, if it doesn't work out, we could come back. And that is a potential scenario. So if we got to, say, July, and they come back and, despite best efforts and running the pro forma and being, transparent with our staff, showing like, here's the numbers, I just can't make these numbers work with these vouchers, or maybe the voucher percentage of units is not where we'd want to see it, then the commission could say, well, we appreciate you trying, but, we were really dedicated to like a blend of income ranges for these units, so we're going to go a different direction, and you could retain one of the two LIHTC proposals that have been previously presented. And I think as long as we had that figured out by July, based on my previous experience, there should be enough time to get work done in time for the October submission. So you could put your eggs in more than one basket, I guess is what I would describe it.
Okay. Whereas conversely, if we went with one of the LIHTC developers, we essentially would be waiting till October or the fall to find out if that project's moving forward. And if they don't get the funding, then we either have the choice to take another crack at it to get the funding, or potentially re-engage the market rate developer on that project.
And to your second point, I believe there's actually potential projects for all three entities, regardless of who is selected for this, just based on either city-owned properties or properties with owners that have approached us that are open to affordable housing that we think may score well.
Okay. Good. I would very much welcome working with each of
I'd
these
like to see
developers
three
and getting
projects,
projects
honestly,
done across
yeah.
their city. Very much so. Did I see your hand up, Vice Mayor German?
Oh yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and thanks, Mayor, for bringing up the vouchers for Section 8. But also, has the developer considered any VASH vouchers, like for veterans?
So those are also considered tenant-based vouchers. So they could do a blend of several, and I believe it's the same income restrictions. So it's just VASH vouchers are specifically reserved for veterans, and so they could decide to reserve X number of units for generalized housing choice vouchers, and then X number of units for VASH, and then they would work with placement agencies that assist veterans finding those housing units. And we have a very severe shortage of both VASH and tenant-based vouchers. The tenant-based units in the rental portfolio in the region, not just the city, that actually support tenant-based vouchers are not an adequate percentage of the total rental units in the market. So both of those would be welcome additions for sure. And then I want to clarify though, so as to make it clear, any of these projects are good. There's also a large shortage of workforce housing, which the LIHTC would serve as well. So.
Okay. And you have the opportunity to do both, because 1021 Jefferson did both. Like they had LIHTC, then they had some was it project-based vouchers for veterans, if I recall.
Did you do VASH for?
Berkshire Muskegon has project-based vouchers.
Yeah,
Berkshire Muskegon. What did we have? I thought there were some units in 1021 Jefferson that were reserved for veterans, or
There might be a veteran's preference there.
Okay.
But there's definitely 8 project vouchers awarded from the Muskegon Housing Commission in Berkshire.
And Berkshire is the project-based voucher.
And that's a good point to bring up. So I sit on the Public Housing Commission board. Commissioner St. Clair is our non-voting commission liaison, and Vice Mayor German was for many years before that the commission liaison. So the way that works is each public housing commission by housing commission district gets a certain number directly from HUD that are called project-based vouchers, and so they can infill those themselves, or they can leverage them into additional scoring through MISTA for LIHTC and other income subsidized housing developments that are third party by packaging them. So in the case of the Berkshire property, the Housing Commission Board voted to dedicate 8 of their, I believe, 40 total project-based vouchers and reserve them at that site. So 8 of those units are reserved for those folks. Tenant-based vouchers are people who have been directly approved through HUD as eligible for a Section 8 or housing choice voucher or VASH voucher, and then they go to landlords trying to find someone who will accept that housing subsidy, which is a process, a federal registration process and reporting process.
It's nice for the resident to have that flexibility of the tenant-based voucher. But I've been hearing, and you can confirm, or my fellow commissioners who are involved in housing, that the number of landlords who accept those tenant-based vouchers has been declining.
Absolutely, especially
drastically.
And since COVID, it's gotten worse, and that's through a lot of different market factors. But yeah, so as I was mentioning to the vice mayor, in response to his question, the percentage of the total rental units in our city's portfolio, I would call it, based on multiple owners, the percentage of units that are friendly to housing choice have declined as a percentage of the total over the last several years. And the housing study gets into some detail about that and potential strategies to try to remedy that. But that's why it's interesting to see a market rate multifamily rehab new construction project that is saying they will explore it, because most commonly when we see new construction market rate, it's not something that property developers in the market rate space have experience with, and so it's often not something that they're willing to explore. So that is a benefit. If we can make the project work with those vouchers, then we may have an example to show them. I don't want to use the term like a card to play, but an example to show them where we say, it can be done. Here's how this pro forma worked. And so
proof is in the pudding.
Right.
I think that is what we get to say with that opportunity, is that it can be done, and this is who we worked with, so that the developers understand, because it's a very prescribed process of what has to go into these rentals and how much it can be and what it is. Like, there is a laundry list that you have to check from HUD. I apologize, I did this, and to be able to qualify. And so if we can find someone who can do that, you are setting precedent and an example that it can be done. And I think that's super important.
Absolutely.
I do like that that mix of market rate and then the tenant-based vouchers. So we have that socioeconomic diversity.
Well, and I think
within
that
the housing developments.
Something like that really speaks to, and I've said this for for 3.5 years now, we need an example of what this looks like so that it sounds less scary. And this could be that. And to speak to what Vice Mayor German always says in the best way, gentrification. How do we fight? He was like, what do you mean? No. How do we fight gentrification? And I think that this is that opportunity to show that we're not putting a bunch of poor people in one area of town. We're not separating them from all the rich people. We're not doing any of that. We could create a space where everything in that space happens right there. And that's how then you sell that to other neighborhoods who are terrified that we're going to come in and do something to them instead of with them. And this is an opportunity to be an example of that. I don't think I raised my pen to speak. I'm so sorry.
No apology necessary, Commissioner Ramsey. With that said, do you have a motion, or is any other commissioner? What's your pleasure, Commission? How would you like to proceed on this? Or do you have more questions before proceeding? Commissioner Gorman?
Oh, I'm comfortable making a motion, but if you have a question, Vice Mayor.
No, I was just going to make a comment to Commissioner Ramsey's point, and the fact that using that as a model and sitting on that housing commission board, and now Commissioner St. Clair sits on there now, you would have these conversations and we would vote on that. And I think it was the Berkshire that had the 8 units, implemented right into the development. I think that really sets precedence there where if we can get the developer, again, like Commissioner Ramsey stated, to buy into that and use that model, I would like to see more on huge projects. If you're going to build 50 units, okay, let's look at maybe 15 units being, I'm just giving an example, because I know you have to make, the money and the budget, financing and all of that stuff meet, the bottom line. So it can be done. We've done it. So I think we just really have to hold ourselves accountable to fix this problem with housing, and then work with the developers and stuff as well.
I think that's a well-made point. I think beyond that, I would point out as well, all 3 of these actually exceed one project. Any of these, if they are completed, each one individual project would exceed the number of new construction market rate units on Western Avenue in the last 6 years. So what you note is we are infilling subsidized units in one fashion or another, whether they're voucher-based or project-based voucher-based or LIHTC. We are infilling them at a significantly higher ratio, which is good because that's what the study illustrates that we need the most. And so, I think that's a well-taken point.
Commissioner Gorman?
Oh, are we ready? Sure.
Unless commissioners, any other questions or final thoughts? Or I shouldn't say final thoughts. We don't have a motion yet.
We still get to talk some more.
So we're looking to vote on this tonight?
Yes.
We actually-
If a motion is presented, then we'll vote on it tonight.
And again, they would all come back to you with a final agreement document. This is really just direction for staff as to who you'd like to see us go down that road with. Yeah.
So no one's been selected, anything, so it's just a motion, okay.
Yeah, the motion that's here and that we need to fill in the blank is to accept the proposal from blank as presented and direct the Development Services Director to negotiate a purchase and development agreement for 1095 3rd Street for commission consideration. So, as the director just indicated, we're tasking him to work through that and come back with an agreement for us to review and then give final approval to. If
I call that a Mad Lib motion.
Cool. Ready? All right.
Commissioner Gorman.
I would like to move to accept the proposal from West Urban Properties as presented and direct the Development Service Director to negotiate a purchase and development agreement for 1095 3rd Street for consideration.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Gorman, supported by Commissioner St. Clair, to accept the proposal from West Urban Properties as presented and direct the Development Services Director to negotiate a purchase and development agreement for 1095 3rd Street for commission consideration. Commissioners, any final thoughts on this? Commissioner Ramsey.
I'm excited for this to become an example, but unfortunately that lays a heavy task on West Urban. And so I'm excited for us to be able to support them through that, to show that it can be done and to set a precedent for our neighbors as that opportunity to truly address the needs of our community and do it in unison. I would want to make sure to implore Director Ekholm and his staff to make sure that we don't lose any relationships or any opportunities to build on anything else in town. And to strike while the iron is hot.
Thank you. We'll make sure to put together a document that has a due diligence period that would allow us options.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey. Commissioner Hood?
No, that was one of the things that was concerning me, and you put it out there just now, a due diligence period. So if it can't be done, then it doesn't limit our options. Yeah.
Indeed. Thank you, Commissioner Hood. Commissioner St. Clair?
I'd like to concur with Commissioner Ramsey and Commissioner Hood, and also to emphasize the importance that we keep all three developers at the table. We need you all. And, you know, today might not be your day, but I promise you, we'll get there. We need everyone at the table.
Yes, here. We are a growing city, as reflected in the demand and seen in the housing study. And we are a city that, as Mr. Heffron knows from personal experience in his past developments, we are a city that welcomes LIHTC developments. We have, in partnership with investors and developers, brought online hundreds of low-income and subsidized housing units across our city in recent years and over the years. A much higher share than any other municipality in Muskegon County, and we're proud of that. We want to be an inclusive community, one that serves folks across the socioeconomic spectrum. Commissioner Gorman, since you made the motion, I'm sorry for not calling on you first as the motion maker. My apologies.
It's okay. I did want to say thank you so much to all three of you for your proposals. It's so exciting that we're at a point where we have so much interest in these. And I just wanted to share a reflection I had in making this decision. And forgive me, I don't know if it was early in my commission or attending meetings when I was running for commission, but previously when Mr. Dusendang was awarded a project, my dear colleague, Commissioner Ramsey, stressed at that point that moving forward, we really did need to see opportunities for income levels of all ranges in our city. So I really appreciate that. I think you took that to heart and that it was reflected in your proposal. And I just want to say thank you for that. But again, also stressing, yes, this due diligence process, I want to make sure, certainly it makes sense for the project, but that my new neighbors are being set up for success. And so that is why I feel good about this. But like the other commissioners have expressed, thank you, all three of you, for your proposals, and we look forward to working with you on other projects as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Gorman. Commissioner Emmer, do you have anything to add?
No.
Vice Mayor German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. level of concern when I look at the opportunity for development, and I like to be make my decisions based on an equitable and fair assessment. Not saying that that's not the case here, but also I appreciate each developer presenting their proposals, and also Commissioner Gorman stating the fact that the reason why she moved forward with, is it urban properties? Yeah. Okay. And knowing Mr. Duzendine when he first started with the infill housing projects, I can honestly say that he was involved in the community. He would come out and talk to citizens, which is greatly appreciated and made itself accessible as well. Just a little concerned though, because that we're working with Mr. Duzendine through this other infill housing projects, and it almost seems like, I'm not going to say nepotism, but the perception from the community when we talk about providing these contracts or partnering with certain developers, it's almost like the process goes forward, but the interests of the certain party is already selected. Now, these are perceptions from the community. Okay, now this is not Commissioner Vice Mayor German's perception, but I have to take into account what my constituents and the public states and says. So he's definitely capable, has some capacity, and looking at the proposals and just going through the package, and when we talk about inclusion, and this is something I've talked about many years, diversity, I talk about your workforce. Does it reflect the community that we serve in here? Because when we talk about taxpayer dollars, well, we're a very diverse city. So that I would like to see more. And me and Mr. Duzendine had those conversations. Staffing. You stated you own your own real estate agency. Does that reflect the city that you're coming in here to serve and build in this community? So if that doesn't, then I have a obligation to question that and to reason why not. So, yeah.
Thank you, Vice Mayor German. Mr. Duzendang, since you are part of this motion right now, and you have been, a question has been inferred to you, and I see you wishing to address it, I will welcome and acknowledge you to the podium. Will you just please provide your name and your organization?
Dave Duzendang, and West Urban Properties LLC is our organization. To answer the question, I think I'm making sure I understand it. Are you asking, with the brokerage company, the real estate company, is that benefiting anybody in Muskegon? Is that
well, definitely.
Okay.
Just overall benefiting citizens or potential realtors here in the city of Muskegon. Staffing, manpower for jobs, doing these projects. We're looking at gender-based, females. Are they able to partake in the construction piece? Or
Yes.
different ethnic groups? That's a huge concern to me when we talk about partnering with developers.
Sure. Well, starting with the brokerage, we have one realtor that is a Muskegon resident, and she hangs her license through our brokerage. All of the listings go through her. She's also a co-broker on all the projects, all the addresses that we have for sale, even including the ARP program as well, and my own personal stuff. And she's also, she's Mexican woman, and she runs all of that. As far as the construction company, we're approximately, without adding them all up, I bet we're close to 75% of all of our construction contractors are right here for local Muskegon residents, from framing to siding to roofing to drywall, paint, we've moved even family members out here that actually work for the company as well. And then as far as all of our the majority of our materials, they come from, as far as Ottawa, all the way into Muskegon. Pretty much anybody that can keep up with the production that we do, we'll use them and give them an opportunity to gain our business. As far as our company in general, we have stopped building anywhere else but Muskegon. Muskegon is our only place. Actually, we're just kicking off a new development down in Norton Shores. That's the furthest away from us right now, which is right down there by the mall. And so everything we have is pretty much already been delivered here, and the income stays right here in the town.
And the makeup of the racial makeup of your builders constructions, does it vary? Hispanic, Black, Asians, a real diverse pool of construction workers, or drywallers, or and that's what I'm looking at, all different walks of life.
Sure. We don't discriminate against anybody. It doesn't matter what color you are, what ethnic you are. You can come in with, if you, like I said many times in the past, if you show up at the job in the morning at 8 o'clock like everybody else, and you stay until 5 o'clock like everybody else, and you don't come intoxicated or under drugs, you got a job. That's never changed since I started that years ago with the same conversation you and I have had. And we've even tried to work with Phyllis as well. And people have come, they've worked a day, they've worked 2 days, they've worked 5 days. We don't see them again. Some people have come, they're still with us 2 years later. So we don't discriminate against anybody. It doesn't matter to me what color you are. You can come if you want a job, give us a call. We'll put you to work. And as far as female goes, if she wants to swing a hammer and she's good at it enough to work for the company that we've hired, you're more than welcome to. And Ashback, my office is all female. I'm the only male there in the office. As far as out in the field go, I can't tell you exactly how many females we have, or how many Mexicans or African Americans. We don't know. It's diverse though.
Well, that's good to know. And like you said, we had these conversations in the very beginning.
And I've honored that.
That's very important. And if I wasn't working, I have my hammer out there building too with you, so. But
Well, I'm in support of it. Just like we did with the lots that I had over in the Marquette. I want everybody. I mean, there's plenty of room for the other two developers here. Whether I get the development or they get the development, it's not going to stop me from doing another development, and it won't stop them from doing another development. There's plenty of work here. There's a lot that needs to be done. And with the interest rates being high, yes, it makes it a little bit more difficult, but we can't stop building. The housing crisis is here now. It's not going to go away in the next year to 18 months. We have to continue as hard as we can. It might prevent me from doing all 3 phases all in 1 year. I might have to do a phase per year. It all depends. And I'd love to give you, the warm feeling that we're 100% going to have 20% of Section 8 vouchers. We don't know. It all goes by numbers. And with us lowering the square footage that we worked so hard on this past year, that's going to be a huge benefit to be able to try to get those numbers down per key so that we can offer that. They may not be able to have, like I can't do what the Light Tech does. I can't give them a 2,000 square foot unit and charge them $300. I can't do that. But I can give a lower square foot place and accept their voucher, and it might only be one person or a couple that doesn't need 2 or 3 bedrooms. They only need 1 bedroom. That's the stuff that we can offer. But we can't compete with the Light Tech company and offer, big square foot, many bedrooms for a low cost, because they're not the bank. And I'm not the bank. I have to go to a bank.
And just one last question, Mr. Duzadine. Anyone watching this, how could they reach out to you, contact you if they were looking for work?
Well, our signs are all over the city. They can grab any email address off any one of those or phone number. I can even state 616-874-7085 is the number to the office, and put them in touch if they have a background in framing. We put them in touch with our framing companies. If they have a background in painting, we'll put them in touch with the painting companies. If they don't even have a background, they just want to learn, give us a call. We can teach you. Someone taught me. I wasn't born with the knowledge, so we could teach anybody. They just got the hardest part, honestly, is just coming to work. That's the hardest part. You just got to be there. And some people work, like I said, 2-3 days, and they get their paycheck on Thursday, and the new video game came out. We don't see them until the following Thursday. They were gaming all night, they say, and that's an actual
Yeah,
That's an actual experience that we've experienced. So, you know, we try to help out as much as we can throughout the whole city and bring as much work as we can here and also hire as many people from our city as we can.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Vice Mayor German. Thank you, Mr. Dusendang. And, you know, as you mentioned, in terms of your 70% of your suppliers and contractors and the resources that you're spending on these developments are with our local businesses and workforce. And I just want to say that I appreciate that, and that the commission over the years has really emphasized the need to support local. And I'm grateful to see that reflected in your business practices. Question though, at one point I remember you saying that you were ultimately going to relocate your business here. Am I misremembering that, or that was where eventually we're going to be? You were going to relocate?
Well, I don't know that we would completely relocate because of all the office staff. They all live over in Grand Rapids, Sparta area.
Okay.
So for them to drive an extra hour to work every day is a lot for me to ask. So we'll probably leave that office there. But with the other development that we have approved, which is our storage units down, the storage condos actually down in Ottawa, the goal is if that actually starts, we'll put a satellite office right there, and that way all of my employees that are out here on a regular basis, that will be their home base. So they don't have to come to the other office only than once a month.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's still a plan of ours, but it hasn't taken off yet.
Okay. Additional West Urban Properties office here, right here in the heart of Muskegon.
Nice.
Good. Also, as Vice Mayor German indicated earlier, in terms of your accessibility, you have been accessible and responsive to our neighbors as these new developments and these new houses go up. I've heard from several different neighbors that are appreciative of you being available, accessible, and responsive. And so, in that vein, I encourage you, and I suspect you are going to work on this and do this regardless, but I would encourage you to carry that spirit forward as you're refining the proposal that you're going to be bringing to the commission as part of your due diligence of engaging with our neighbors on the contours of this particular development. You know, particularly with aesthetics in mind.
Sure. Well, with every project that we start, our rule is we go to the surrounding neighbors, give them business cards, and let them know that they can call upon us for any emergencies or just any questions or concerns as well. If it's an emergency, call 911, obviously, and then they'll contact us, and if you contact us. So we are very much in contact with all of the surrounding neighbors around all the projects we start, whether it's a one single family home or it's a whole block of homes. We still go to every neighborhood and try to have some sort of either a meeting or just our meet and greet with the adjoining homeowners across the street or next door.
Okay, thank you. And I'll share kind of a conclusion of my thoughts as to why I support your proposal out of the three. I like them all. They're all great proposals. The things that make me more inclined to support yours and the Commissioner Gorman's motion is that you do have the greatest number of units in your proposal. So we're getting more housing options becoming available. You're programming the basement fully. You are adding that commercial space on the two corners, which is great. I'd like to see that activated in commercial space. You're including the tenant-based vouchers, something that we know is in very much need in our city. And also you have the townhouses that have that flexibility to be rental or for sale. So we see a wide variety of housing options incorporated in your proposal, both in terms of price and whether for sale or for rent, and inclusive of that commercial space and the activation and the higher number of units and the prospect of getting 2 more floors even.
Yeah, if the structural
on that building.
If the structural comes back adequate, that we can go 2 more stories up above grade, which gives us a total of 4 stories. We can keep it all with stick framing, which keeps the cost down. And if that's a possibility, we're going to definitely explore that as well.
Okay.
For more density.
Thank you again for your proposal. And thank you to the other proposal submitters for theirs and their interest in investing and growing with our city. So, Commissioners, any final thoughts before we go to roll call? I think we've all spoke. So, roll call, please.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hood?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Yes.
Vice Mayor German?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, that concludes our scheduled agenda items. Is there any other business?
Oh, yeah.
Manager Seifert.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
wait.
Well, no, you're right.
Oh, no, we are done. Okay.
Yeah, you're done.
Yeah, okay.
You're done.
You have something to
Yeah,
to
I have
add.
something to add. The so last night we talked about the special work session to go over the housing study. Voted the 27th. That wasn't a good date for folks. So 21st, 29th, 3rd, or 4th. I'm just checking to see if any of those would work. I've not run that by staff, but
So I have, Mr. Manager, you and I were supposed to are going to have our one-on-ones tomorrow, and I wanted to talk to you about this then.
Yep.
But I think while everyone's looking at their calendars, I think that the opportunity that we have to share this study with the community as we present it, and us being there, and to have a larger meeting than just because it is a huge document, right? So we want to make its findings digestible.
Yes.
And I think that we owe a service to our neighbors to provide an open meeting where discussion can be had, questions can be asked, and the document reviewed. So I would really like for us as a commission to find a location to take that meeting so that when it does happen, we can get as many people in the room as possible. I think that there's places like the congregation room at FCC where they have a stage and they're mic'd and there's audio visual and a huge place that's in a completely walkable area for people to get to. That when we pick a date, let's also pick a venue that speaks to the moment itself. I think that there's an opportunity to truly engage all of our neighbors in this situation. And so that's what I want. And this is all brand new. We were supposed to talk about it tomorrow morning, and I didn't want to say it in front of people, but then he was going to do it tonight, so I told him I was going to do this. I'm not slapping anybody in the face. But I think that this needs to be a way bigger deal than us coming and sitting in this room. This is housing. This is a housing plan. This is how we make sure that our neighbors have a place to call home in our community. And it needs to be out there, and there needs to be conversation around, and not these one-off situations where if people can get there, but let's make a concerted effort. Bigger, better.
Okay.
What was those dates?
I think probably what I'm hearing from Commissioner Ramsey, and if the rest of the commission is in concurrence, we're going to need to coordinate for another site, and so I think that will be the next step. And I will say that the intent of the staff was to kind of walk the commission through it, and then also talk to the public about it. So it wouldn't be a one-off, but if you want to do it together, that's fine too.
I think there's an opportunity to cut down on, I'm so sorry, Mr. Mayor, to cut down on confusion, and as we play that game of telephone, so that our neighbors can get firsthand what we get, and questions can be asked, and it's a level set of information, digestible information across the board. It's super important to me.
Okay.
So I agree, Commissioner Ramsey, on doing it bigger, more comprehensive, and more in concert with not only our neighbors, but any potential developers or investors, and bringing about that new housing and existing property management companies. I do wonder, though, the manager is saying of having that work session first, where it brings to the commission, it is going to be publicly available, so folks will be able to getting a full first look of it with us, and then we can give direction as to what the next steps look like in terms of that bigger format and that space. But the other caveat to keep in mind is that the reason why we don't have, we told our Parks and Recreation Director he didn't need to stay the night, is that the thought was that we were going to tack on that item from our CRC meeting last night to our next that special work session.
Right.
So we were going to do both those things, the housing study at the special work session, and then the creation or a review of the composition of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. And so that probably wouldn't be a good fit.
Nope.
At the bigger kind of event or forum that you're thinking of to tack on Parks and Recreation then.
It's not.
So I guess I personally would be more inclined to do the work session, the special work session that the manager has proposed, so we can get that first look at the housing study, tackle the Parks and Recreation
I think
committee
we
at
should
the same
have
time,
two separate
and then
things.
do the bigger forum or bigger event that you're looking for us to do, the one more concerted engagement. But commissioners, your thoughts. We've heard from Commissioner Ramsey, we've heard from myself, we heard from the manager, but what are your thoughts? Commissioner St. Clair.
I'm in agreement with you, Mayor. I think sooner is probably better for us to start digesting this. It's a huge amount of data, and the logistics of coordinating with a larger venue and then all of our schedules might push this out longer than we want to begin this conversation. I think we can do those two things simultaneously. I think we can plan for a work session within the next week or two, while also planning for a larger community conversation maybe within the next month. And hit both of those marks.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner St. Clair. Any other thoughts, Commissioner Emery?
I agree with you. And
Are any other thoughts, commissioners?
I'm open.
You're open to?
Yeah, I'm open
Okay.
to that as well.
So, should we look at our calendars then for the
Yes,
special
what
work
were the
session?
dates?
What were the dates that you? That was your
Yeah.
question, Vice Mayor Chairman. What are the dates? that you're proposing?
just the ones that I, from a quick look.
Yeah.
It's March 21st, so a week from
That
tonight.
one won't work for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
March 29th, which is a Wednesday.
Okay.
Keeping in mind the 28th, we have a commission meeting. April 3rd or 4th, so a Monday or Tuesday.
Doesn't work for me.
Neither third nor
Fourth.
fourth.
Those
Okay.
work for me as well.
The 29th works for me, but I don't know.
29th
date.
works for me.
Yeah.
29th works for Commissioner Emery, Vice Mayor German,
Works for me as well.
Commissioner Gorman.
Is Jake back there?
He's in the hallway talking to Sire.
If just one of the staff members can grab him for a second, because he's the one that's going to present.
Does that mean he needs to be there?
Probably. Probably.
My choir director will probably fire me, but I can make the 29th work.
We have to skip Michael.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Does that work for everyone? Commissioner Hood?
Is that it?
I can do it. We have
Set
to
it
miss
up
that
for-
Rotary DEI event.
We're gonna miss the DEI
That's on
event
the
for Rotary?
29th, yeah.
Fine.
To where
29th works.
29th works.
I don't know. I mean,
To be determined.
to be determined. It don't look like it works, but to be determined.
We can look out. Well, we got our next work sessions on the 10th. We were gonna have a couple bigger items on there, but we don't need that on that one.
We got
too.
enough on
I
April.
wish there was an option for us to move the.
And we're talking about at 5:30, right?
5:30.
That would be my assumption, unless the board wanted a different time.
Do you would a later or earlier time work better?
Earlier time would
Earlier?
work better. Yeah.
Is there any chance that we could meet earlier on Wednesday, March 29th?
5 o'clock is the
5
earliest.
o'clock's
I
the
would be
earliest you could do,
available.
Commissioner
that's
St.
I have
Clair?
a hard
earliest I
4
could
o'clock.
do it.
That'd be the earliest for you, Vice Mayor
Yeah.
German. Would that be
I get it.
helpful, Commissioner Hood, if we did 5 o'clock? Would just a half an hour earlier be better?
Yeah, that would be helpful. Yep, that would be helpful.
Okay. The alternative, we can push it back later in the night, but I don't think we're going to want to be here all night on Wednesday, March 29th.
And it will be here.
Here, and we're going with 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
I was bringing dinner.
Right.
Is that enough notice?
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Got a special work session, is that what we call it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
special
Okay,
work session. Yeah.
All right, commissioners, are there any other items that you wish to address right now?
We have a staff birthday.
Commissioner Ramsey.
We have a staff birthday that I think that we could say happy birthday to Dan, our new director of public works.
Oh, that's
Birthday.
right.
A happy happy birthday, Dan. I'm not going to sing because that costs extra, but you're new and all, so we might as well embarrass you while we can.
Let's wrap this up so he can get out of here and go home first.
Happy birthday, Dan. We're not sharing the age. So congrats. Anything else, commissioners? All right, entertain a. Wait, no, we're not adjourning. We have public comment.
Public comment.
Almost. All right. First up, we have Mr. Reuben Crosby joining us from Muskegon Heights. Welcome, sir, and you have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
Heard you guys speaking about a timer.
Oh, it's up there on the screen.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
He's tapping in.
Well, my name is Reuben Miles Crosby. I was named after my great-grandfather, Reuben Burton. Not to be confused or forced upon the name of any adverse actions by any man, woman, corporation, or anything. I say this because I'm going on the 4th year that I've had problems at the Muskegon County building, where I get papers that are in a name that's not mine. Regardless if I have an ongoing case, I have rights. We all know this. I am an advocate for pretrial reform. Simply because of these mistakes, I have been quiet, not coming to any city council meetings, because this being my first one, I see there's much more going on in my city. I'm a man and I have great patience, but my patience has run thin. Again, I have mentioned my name being Reuben Miles Crosby. I have papers in my hand that says Reuben Milo Crosby was summoned to court at a time and a date that was wrong. Okay? I have papers that are addressing a Paul Follett. And if I don't go to court under these names, I am arrested. Okay? This is a false arrest. It's simple as that. I love Muskegon. Okay? I do everything from singing, rapping, how you doing, Michael, acting. I just did Miss Holmes at the Civic. Okay? Ventriloquism, you name it. I'm a LLC owner, Media Art Michigan, and I have a DBA in my hand that's still legit until the 8th of this year, in May. I say all this to say, I have been treated as an unjust. No one here in this room is a part of that, but I can't keep going up to this county building and letting the officials know, hey, these names are wrong. You have to get them right. I'm legally bound by the facts on the paper. If they are not facts, I am not to show up. I will not show up, and you cannot force me to show up. Nonetheless, I show up, okay? I show up to let you know I have been arrested falsely for Zoom meetings, okay? So this is not something that I wish to carry on. I have handled my cases on my own. I have went through a number of public defenders, and all which who have seemingly, I don't want to say neglect because I don't know what they got going on, but you can't keep acting as if I'm not telling you this is going on. This pushes my case to the point of conviction. Now, I have a felony on my record over a name of a victim who was wrong. The name of the victims is wrong. It's just something that needs to be announced. So I want to come today and let you know that I have these things going on, great opportunities outside of Muskegon, and I can bring back more to Muskegon if I have the opportunity to actually move freely and not held against my will on probation due to false papers. I was gonna send this around, but unless I handle this, I'll be back. So, I sent y'all emails, and I know my time's up.
Thank you,
Just
Mr.
check your
Crosby.
email, no hostility. It was a good thing for me to be here today. This is my first time coming to one of these. So I'm gonna go ahead and let y'all in. Please check your emails, reach out to me. I just need help, you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby.
Thank you.
Appreciate you joining us tonight, sharing your experience and your perspective. And yes, you can reach the entire City Commission at citycommission@shorelincity.com. Sounds like you have reached out to the Commission. I would encourage you to also reach out to the County Commissioners. They're the ones with oversight of a lot of the operations at the county building. I don't know if they necessarily be able to provide resolution to your particular situation, but they may be able to get you connected to the appropriate person who could. And I'd seen a couple county commissioners in the room earlier tonight, so we'll get you. Do you want me to acknowledge you? Okay. We have County Commissioner Darrell Page, who represents Muskegon Heights, as well as portions of the city of Muskegon in the room. We appreciate you joining us tonight, Commissioner Page. And I would encourage the two of you to speak on that matter and see if he may be able to help you out, and let me know if I can be of any assistance as well. Thank you. Next up, we have Ms. Renee Starr joining us from Northern Shores. Welcome. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks. Good evening.
Well, I've been kind of pushing this point consistently, and I will probably consistently push this point. Within the city of Muskegon, we got to work on it. Although I see a very diverse board here, commission, I love to see that. But unfortunately, the way that we operate is very, very racist. I, as a real estate broker, licensed builder, been in real estate for over 30 years and building houses. I'm one of those girls at 19, 20 years old. I was on top of houses building them, and was getting a job and had to quit it because I was pregnant. You know, I understand all of those things, but I feel that this city does not represent assisting other builders, companies, and other people who are not male or who are not mainly Caucasian. And I have no regrets against anyone else. But with $23 million, we had only one minority that was a minority male that received some of that funds in ARPA. Of 23 million, 0 women. 5.75 went into housing for those making over 80,000, 75, 80,000 or more. 0 went into housing for people who were at the 50% or 60% AMI, which is average median income, which is why you got the money. 0% of those people received that. I've come to the city on several occasions because we specialize in affordable housing, where we have all kinds of units across this city, the city of Muskegon, that we've been here for over 20 years. And we have people who have been in our houses for over 20 years. I got 4-bedroom, 2-bath houses on Marquette, $800 a month. This is how we work, but we've been treated unjustly and without a sense of respect or pride. I watched this couple, and it made me sick a couple weeks ago, over a month ago, when I saw that another man, we specialize in keeping people from being homeless, and I saw this man almost lose his house. And I only heard one man who initially came up and said, hey, 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 that was Vice Mayor German. And in the end, had Vice Mayor German never said that, this man would have been homeless. And now we're in a place where his house was actually saved and he was okay all along. This is an example of gentrification at its best. Although you're helping people, I'm looking at your process of how you're helping. You only give certain people the money to do it, and then they make discriminatory decisions where, yeah, you may give someone all this money to do it, but are they really going to help those? Like maybe, oh, he's Mexican, we don't want to deal with him. We have to be more inclusive in the way that we use our money.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you, Ms. Starr. I appreciate you joining us
You're welcome.
tonight.
Oh, by the way, I have people tell me, Ms. Starr, you need to go run for mayor. And I said, I'm not going to take Mayor Johnson's place, but you guys need to let them know how you feel. Okay?
Thank you for joining us tonight. All right, anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on this? Or no, wishes to speak. All right, County Commissioner Darrell Page, welcome. You have up to 3 minutes.
This is my first time, and it's something important. Like, people need to show up to this. And,
Please spread that word.
4 minutes.
Thank you. Commissioner Page, welcome. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
Thank you,
And
Mayor.
You are, just so you know, our elected officials that represent the city of Muskegon are welcome at our meetings anytime. And if you'd like to be acknowledged at the beginning of a meeting, I'm happy to do so under presentations, honors, and awards. So just for future reference, we welcome and appreciate you joining us, and you are welcome here any meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. I'm not in a hurry. I actually enjoyed listening to the whole meeting. I'm
actually used to being in meetings that take some time, so I understand that. But I just wanted to come forward and introduce myself to you. I'm Darrell Page. I'm the newly elected commissioner for District 7, which encompasses all 4 precincts of Muskegon Heights, the 4th of Norton Shores, and 6, 8, 9, and 11 of Muskegon. That's right. So any time I can come to your wards, not just the wards that I represent, any of your wards, and speak on anything, I'll be more than happy. I'd like to meet with some of your neighborhood associations to see what county can actually do for them. And I don't know, I sit on the board with Mr. Hood, Commissioner Hood, and at the land bank, and I'm sure he's mentioned it. I don't know if Mr. Miasalotis has mentioned it as well, but there's $2.5 million that came to the Muskegon County Land Bank, okay, for properties in the land bank, which could be anywhere in the county. I'm sure you have a lot in Muskegon as well, and it could be used for acquisition. It could be used for remediation. It could be used for demolition to take things out. So please take use of that. Make use of that. Thank you for allowing me to come. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
I'm grateful for your service to our community. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak under public comment that has not had an opportunity to do so already? All right. Phone line. Is there anyone on the phone that wishes to give public comment?
Well, Mayor, we did have one. It looks like we have lost her. It was Keitha Burt of Muskegon.
Oh,
Who
Keitha.
wanted to say that she thought Mayor Johnson was doing a great job.
Oh. Keith, if you're watching at home, I appreciate the kind remarks. All right. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner St. Clair, supported by Commissioner Emery to adjourn. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Same sign. The ayes have it. We are adjourned. Thank you. Take care. Be well.
Everyone.